Again, good afternoon. Welcome to lecture number 7. This is about simple regression and correlation analysis. So for this lecture, we will be working on a document. So I'll be sharing this to everyone. Okay. So, lalagay ko dun sa chat box natin. Hi, Kiana. Good afternoon. Sige. Click the link and then try to see if you can edit the document. Okay. So, andyan na sila. Dalawa pa lang. Tatlo. Okay, sige. Click the link, click the link. Okay, since we're going to do simple correlation regression analysis today, let's begin with the situation. The table below shows the relationship between the number of hours spent studying and the final exam grades. We're trying to find out if there's a relationship between the number of hours spent studying and final exam grades. What do you think before we go for the competition? What do you think? Nakaka-apekto ba yun? Are you the type of person na yung parang 1 hour before the exam saka nagre-review or madaling araw saka nagre-review? Or are you the type of person na yung review nyo ay ginagawa nyo days before the exam? Okay? So comment one if you are the type of person na yun nga 1 hour before or madaling araw nagre-review before the exam. Or comment 2 kung kayo yung days before the exam nagpe-prepare na para hindi kayo nagka-cram. Say nga on the chat box. You can send it to everyone. Send it to everyone. Kiana is 1. Carl is 2. Patty is also 2. Erica is 1. Lauren is 1. 2. 1. 1. 2. Okay, so walang pattern, no? Combination ng 1 at 2. Actually ako, when I was in high school, I used to be a 1. Kasi, ano naman yan eh. Lalo na pag yung mga kailangan sa uluhin, sure nasa sa ulo ko yon ng hours before the exam. 1 hour before the exam. Pero simula na nag-graduate school, doon ko na-appreciate yung kailangan mong ataduhin yung days mo before an examination so that you can digest more material. Especially when making a project or when you're writing something. Ako before nung high school, you can write, kaya mamaya na yung deadline, ngayon ka magsusulat. Pero ngayon hindi na siya nag-work. So I have to really plan weeks before kung ano susulatin, basa ng related literature, plan ulit, sketch, hanggang sa siguro mga 2 or 3 days. Actually, may papasa ako mamaya. Well, nasulat ko na naman yung niya, so kailangan na lang i-finalize. And then write 1 day and then edit the other day. Pero alam ko, most of you, magkasama na yan, no? Kung ngayon ang pasa, ngayon mo susulatin, so wala ng edit. Okay? Or, tama, ngayon yung sulat, ngayon din yung edit. Pero minsan wala ng edit. Okay? Anyways, so let's see kung meron to. The first thing you need to consider is to try to visualize ano yung relationship ng dalawang variables using a scatter plot. You can do this by hand. Pwede ka mag-drawing ng x at y axis. You can select any of the two. You can have the final exam on your x or your number of hours spent studying on your y or vice versa. And you can do that, again, as I've mentioned, by hand, or you can do that using Microsoft Excel or GeoGebra. Let's first go to GeoGebra. I have here the data. A, that's your number of hours spent studying. And B, that's your final exam score. So the first thing you need to do is to highlight and enter pala muna, and then highlight, and then go to this one. 2 variable, kaya bivariate, nabanggit ni Professor Yambot, bivariate data. So click that one, and then click analyze. In this case, I already have the statistics kasi ginawa na namin to kanina. Pero, yan. Usually, ganito muna ilalabas. So this is a scatter plot. That's the first thing you need to check. Check mo muna kung bagay, pwede ba yung linear. Actually, linear lang yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon. No? There will be other ways to determine the relationship between two or to model the relationship between variables, but we'll be just discussing the simplest, which is linear. So in this case, kung kita mo na, yeah, pwedeng i-model to yun ng line. Kasi as you can see, the points are actually behaving on a straight line. So let's copy this one. And then paste it here. So here's the scatter plot. Okay, so that's first thing you need to verify. So since we can all agree na yes, pwede nating i-estimate yung relationship between the two variables using a line, the next thing you need to do is to calculate and interpret the correlation coefficient. So the next question is how strong or how weak the relationship is, the linear relationship is. And one way to do that is to compute for the for the correlation coefficient. There will be several formulas for correlation coefficient, but I selected this formula because it's easier to compute. So this is the formula for the correlation coefficient. As you can see, you need xy, meaning you need to multiply x and y. You need also to have the square of y and the square of x. So that's the reason why I made a column here for xy. I made a column for x squared, and I made a column for y squared. Ngayon, kindly help me filling out this table. Who would like to do the xy? Sige, who would like to do the xy? Xy means you just have to multiply x and y. Okay, si Carl daw sa xy. Y squared si Isaiah sa x squared. Who would like to do the x squared? X squared, anybody? Si Carl sa xy, Isaiah sa y squared. How about x squared? Who would like to do the x squared? Square lang yung x, ha? Can I ask Erica? Erica, kaya mo ba mag-type? Okay, si Erica lang. Thank you. Bilis ni Carl. Would you like to get the summation, Carl? Pwede na naman. Okay, so while they are filling out the table, can I ask someone to please get the summation of all the x's? Just put it here. Anyone? Sige, kung may na-compute nyo na, just add all the x's. Tapos, ilagay nyo lang dun sa, sa pinakababang column. Si Carl, sige, ikaw na dito, Carl, sa xy. Fill in the xy. Tapos, Erica, ikaw na din dyan. Fill the x squared, summation. Sige, Isaiah, ikaw na din dyan, ha. Medyo malaki-laki yung value ng y squared. Okay. Thank you, Carl. So, 2795. How about for x? Who would like to do for x? Just get the sum. Si Via. Via, would you like to do for x? Would you like to add all the x's? Okay, thank you. And then Laika, would you like to do number for y? The summation of y. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sige, Christine, nandyan ka na. Since nandyan ka na, Christine, sige, you can help. Sino ang tinawag ko sa x squared? You can help getting the summation of x squared. Nice one. Thank you. At word na lang. Oh, kahit sino na lang for x squared para makapag-formal na tayo. Okay. Thank you, Carl. Okay, now, so we're done getting all the summations. And yun lang naman yung requirement para dito sa correlation coefficient. So the next thing you need to do is to substitute all those values. So I have here 8 times the summation of xy, which is 2795, sabi ni Carl kanina. And then, summation of x, kinuha ni... Si Bianca ba yung kumuha nun sa x? So let's have 36 here. And then times summation of y, which is 549. Tapos, yung sa baba. Okay, take note. Be careful on this one. This is summation of x squared, summation of all the squares of x. While this one is the summation of x squared. So magkaiba to. So 8 times the summation of x squared, which is 180, times 180, minus summation of x, which is 36 squared. On the other hand, 8, by the way, is the number of pairs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Summation of y squared is 37251. Okay. Minus summation of y, then square it, 549. Okay, sige. You can plug this on your calculator. Tapos pag may nakuha na kayong value, just key in the value of r in 4 decimal places. I'm just checking the values here. Okay, kindly check the summation of y squared. Okay, kindly check the summation of y squared. Tsaka summation ng x squared pala. Kasi the square of 6 is actually 36. So let me change this. It's 36. Okay, so yeah, sige. Pa-check ako. So it's not 180. And this one. Boring ko muna Isaiah. So mababago pala to. Okay, Carl, thank you. 204. And then summation of y squared. Okay, so 4251. Yan, pwede na. Go. So find the value for r. Kung meron na si Carl. Sige nga, Carl. What did you get? Okay, 966. Let's just wait for the others. Siguro mga 1 minute. Check natin kung paras kayo ng sagot. Okay, what the others? Kapag paras kayo ni Carl ng sagot, thumbs up. Thumbs up kung paras kayo ni Carl ng sagot. 9866. Carl, wala nagta-thumbs up. So, sabihin, wala kang kapares na sagot. Ayun, si Patty. Pares ko daw kayo ni Patty. Who else? Si Patty, who else? Yan, si Isaiah. Isa pa. Isa pang mag-verify na tama yung value ng R. Then we will proceed. How about the others? Wala pa na isa ha. Isa pa mag-verify na 9866 nga. Wala na ibang mag-verify kung tama. Wala ko, sige. It's 9866. Very nice. So the next thing you need to do is to interpret the value of R. Again, the value of R can be positive or negative, but in this case, it's positive. It verifies our trend, because our trend is increasing. So that means your R should be positive. But if your scatter plot resembles a decreasing value or a decreasing trend, then your correlation should be negative. But in this case, it's positive. Then the next thing you need to do is to look for the strength of the linear relationship. So where do you think your R value falls in this case? So what should be the strength? It is very strong. Sabi ni Via, very good. So can you please, Via, continue this? There is a strong, actually very strong, no? There is a very strong positive linear relationship. Don't forget the word linear, kasi linear lang yung kinocompute natin. Between, sige, Via, can you please continue this? There is a very strong positive linear relationship between what? Between, sige. Between the two variables, di ba? So ano yung mga variables na yan? Sige, Via. But, sige, dito mo na i-type Via sa document natin. Between, what's the first one? Between the number of hours spent studying and, yan. So habang tinatype ni Via yung dalawang variable, what does it mean when you have a positive linear relationship? So it's like having a direct relationship or direct variation, which means that as the number of hours spent studying increases, somebody please continue this. This means that as the number of hours spent studying increases, anybody can just go over and type your answer. Very nice, Via. Okay, thank you, Sito. As the number of hours studying increases, what happened? Correct. Sige, let's para parallel. Grade increases. Yeah. Thank you, Sito. Very well. And that's it. Do you have any questions? If none, comment 1. Questions? If none, comment 1. Kung okay tayo, just comment 1. So may question pa yung iba? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So ngayon, so we're done getting the coefficient, the R value and determining the strength of the linear relationship and basically interpreting the value. The next thing we need to do is to determine if it's significant. Usually, pag mataas, yeah, normally significant yan. But it doesn't mean that even though the strength is at the moderate or weak, it doesn't mean it will not be significant. If you listen to the webinar by Professor, by Professor, forget the name. by Professor Yambot, then it depends on the field kung ano yung tinetest natin. Minsan moderate pero significant pala. Okay, so to do that, number 3, is there enough evidence to believe that indeed the number of hours spent studying has a significant linear relationship with final exam grades at 5% level of significance? We'll now do the usual hypothesis testing that we're doing since last year. Who would like to complete the null hypothesis? There is no? Sige, sino tong violet? Sito, would you like to complete this? There is no significant linear relationship. How about for the alternative? Sige, Sito, continue mo to. There's no significant linear relationship between. How about for the alternative habang kinukompleto ni Sito? Anybody who would like to do the alternative? Konti lang naman tayo dito. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 lang pa tayo. Bruce, would you like to do the alternative? Kung maabutan tayo after 1 hour, ang gawin ko na lang yung last part, which is the use of calculator, GeoGebra, and Excel. Ano ko na lang, ililink ko na lang dun sa, lilink ko na lang kayo, i-splice ko yung isang video, tapos sa inyo lang ipapakita ko sa inyo. Okay, kung matagal lang tayo mag-fill out nito. How about for the alternative? Anybody? Okay, very good, Sita. Sige, Carl, ikaw na lang sa alternative, Carl. May Anna. Sige, just delete the A. Okay, thank you. How about the test procedure? Thank you, Carl. That's very nice. Okay, take note of the symbol. How about for the test procedure? For the test procedure, you can go to this table. Let's determine, identify the alternative hypothesis. So in this case, what should be the test procedure? Actually, to determine if your correlation coefficient is significant or not, we will be using t-test. So manghihiram tayo ng distribution kay t. So in this case, what will be the test procedure? It is? Go, Carl. Diretso mo na. Very well. That's two-tailed t-test. And if it's two-tailed t-test, then our decision rule will be at the 5% level of significance, we're going to reject the null hypothesis if the computed value of t is greater than the tabular value of t, or otherwise we'll fail to reject HO. Okay, so this is basically the formula for the computed value of t. And what we're going to do is to compute for the value of t using R and N. Ano nga yung R? R is 0.9866, no? Your N is 8, so 8 minus 2. And then 1 minus 0.988, sorry, 0.9866 squared. Okay, plug this on your calculator. And then if you already have the value, just give me the t value up to 4 decimal places. Very nice, Carl. So the answer is 14.8118. And we're going to compare that into our tabular value. Look at this. This is t alpha over 2. We are asked to do it at 5% level of significance. So that's 0.025. That's the reason why it's 0.025. And then your degrees of freedom is n minus 2. So it will become 6. So on your t table, I want you to look at pwedeng at two-tailed, look at 0.05 and then df of 6. Or you can look at one-tailed, but instead of 0.05, look at 0.025. And then with degrees of freedom of 6. So kapag may nakakita na sa inyo, just put here the value. Actually, pwede nyo i-google eh. Tinatamad kayong buksan yung table nyo. Okay, what's the 0.05, 0.025 df6? May nakakuha na? I'm back. Yeah, it should be 2.447. Yeah, correct. 2.447. Anybody? 2.447. Thank you, Carl, Via, and Sito. Now, what will be our decision? What will be our decision? Si Carl lang nakakasama ko lagi dito. We what? How about the others? We what? Oh yeah. Ayan, sige. Si Sito na daw. We reject. Very good, Via and Isaiah. We reject the null hypothesis since it's greater than. Okay. So do not forget, sometimes sa akin for now, okay na to. But next time, kompletuhin nyo kasi you need to get the absolute value of t. So since the absolute value of a positive number is just 14.81, so be careful on those things. But technically, we have to reject the null hypothesis. So what will be our conclusion? Therefore, at the 5%, so should be at the 5% level of significance, do we have sufficient evidence or we don't have a sufficient evidence? So itong tanong is there enough evidence to believe? So what will be our conclusion? At 5% level of significance, we have what? Sufficient? Tama? Sige, Sito. Tuloy mo na yan. We have sufficient evidence to say that there is a significant linear relationship. Very nice. Very good. Okay, thank you, Sito. Ay, wait lang. Sito ko ng Sito. Ikaw ba talaga si Sito? Asinto.
Yes po, sir.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Very nice. Very well. Okay, so do you have any question for this one? Comment 2 kung wala. Or kung okay kayo sa ginawa natin. Comment 2 kung okay tayo. Medyo nakakantok yung oras. Very good. Thank you. Okay. So, we've already done determining the strength of the linear relationship, determining the direction of the relationship, and we've already established that the relationship is statistically significant. So after that, you can proceed to the simple regression analysis. Take note, parang hindi magandang magdiretso ka sa regression analysis or you conduct regression analysis if your correlation analysis is non-significant. So kung hindi significant, huwag ka na mag-proceed sa regression analysis. Then sa correlation analysis kasi, what we can see or what we can find out or what we can get from the analysis is to describe the relationship. So we don't have actually the parang the idea of how each variable is changing or causing the others to change. So yun yung goal natin for regression analysis. We're going to determine if you change a particular variable, what will happen to the other variable. Okay? And for that one, we're going to find a simple regression model using the independent variable x and the dependent variable y. Doon sa kanina natin ginawa, which is correlation analysis, pwede mong hindi piliin kung sino si independent siya si dependent. Pwede actually magkabaliktad dyan. You will have the same result. But for regression analysis, you have to have your dependent and independent variables identified. And for our case, we're going to assign our independent variable to be the number of hours spent studying, and for the dependent variable to be the final exam scores or final exam grade. Other books will give you different formula, but again, I selected this formula kasi directly niyang gagamitin yung mga ginawa natin sa table if you just wanted to compute things by hand. Other books will give you y equals b sub 1x plus b sub 0 and y equals bx plus a. That's the reason why we first determined ano yung itsura ng trend. And since it's linear, so the best way to model the relationship is using a line. And we've learned from math that a line, you can write the equation of a line using the form y equals mx plus b or the slope-intercept form. So in this case, ito din yun, y equals mx plus b. So binago lang yung mga variables. Or y equals bx plus a or a plus bx. B is your slope. So the first thing that we need to do is to compute for the regression coefficient, which is this one. So sinubstitute ko na dito. Yung n natin is 8. Summation of xy is 2795 minus, what's the summation of y? It's 36. So habang ginagawa ko to, somebody please do the substitution for a. Kahit sino. Sige, I'll do the b. That's 36 times summation of x. Xy ulit. Hindi pala. Dito pala ako sa b. Summation of y. 549. 8 times 204 minus summation of x, which is 36. Okay. Sige. Kung may na-complete nyo na, you can just plug the value here to find the value of b. For a, ang dami nyo dyan. Sige, Carl, dyan ka sa ilalim. Sino to? Si Sito ba to? Sige, Sito, do the numerator. Anybody who already have or found the value for B can already do it for A. For B, may value na ba kayo for B? Yan, sa Isaiah daw, meron na. Okay, I'll be back. Feeling ko tama yung 7.7. How about for A? Okay, very nice. Thank you, Isaiah, Sito, and Carl. So how do we interpret this? For the regression coefficient, this is the same thing as your slope. Remember slope? How do we interpret slope? Ano ang slope? Anong sabi sa atin? What is slope? What's slope again? Very nice, Carl. It's the change of y for every 1 unit change of x. Okay? So for every 1 r increase in what, there is how many increase in the what? So let's have that pattern in na binigay ni Carl. Sabi ni Carl, your slope or your regression coefficient is actually the change in your y for every 1 unit increase or decrease or change in your x. So in short, for this case, for every 1 r increase in what? So can you please edit this? Increase in what? For every 1 r increase in the sorry, Carl. Sige, go. In the number, correct? There is a, how many? There is a 7.7262 increase in the okay, very nice. So that's it. That's how we're going to interpret the regression coefficient. How about the regression constant? Thank you, Carl. That's really nice. How about the regression constant? What does it mean? In math, your regression constant is your y-intercept. How do we define y-intercept? What's y-intercept nga ulit? Okay, so it's the value of y when x is 0, precisely. So y-intercept is the value of y when x is 0. So in this case, when the number of hours spent studying is what? Then your predicted final exam grade is. Okay, can you complete this? When the number of hours spent studying is, according to Carl, it's when it is 0, then the predicted final exam grade is, or score, grade pala to, no, is 33.8571. In this case, baka walang 33.8571 na grade. So sometimes your regression constant doesn't make sense in real life or in the situation, but it helps your line to perfectly model the data. Okay. So in that case, baka walang ganito. So sometimes we don't interpret yung regression constant. But just in case we need to know what regression constant is, it's the value of y when x is 0. So we're now therefore ready to write our regression model. So all you have to do is to just write it like an equation of a line. So we can have y equals 33.8571 plus 7.7262 x, or we're going to use the variables in this problem. Your y is the final exam grade. So final exam grade, it's equal to 33.8571 plus 7.7262 times your number of hours studying. And this is our regression model. So let me change Macy. For example, si Bea. Predict the score of Bea who spent 7 hours studying, provided that Bea belongs to the population where we get the sample. So say nga, can you please predict the score of Bea who spent 7 hours studying? That's one thing pala na pwedeng natin gawin for regression analysis. We can do predictions. We can actually intra tsaka extrapolate. Sige, predict the scores or the score of Bea who spent 7 hours studying. Okay ang kanyang grade. Sabi ni Dia, it's 87.94. What did you do, Dia? What did you do?
Sir, yung number of hours studying po, nilagay ko lang po ay 7. Tapos, kinumpute na po lahat.
Okay, very nice. So, basically, you just substituted the number of hours studying. So, in this case, it will be 7. And sabi ni Dia, the final answer should be... It should be... Let's write approximately na lang. No? Approximately. Kasi, score ito. So, grade whole number. So, 88. Tama? 88. So, we can do that. Okay. Do you have any questions for prediction? So, let's now move to the last one. We're going to assess the adequacy of the estimated regression model by computing the coefficient of determination. Actually, what do you mean, Carl? Paano ko matitake yung account yung upper limit ng final? Actually, yung regression line mo, di ba, pag line kasi it goes without bound. Tama? So, ikaw ni bahala mag-set nun sa model mo. Lalagay mo na lang yung ano, kung saan yung possible values ng x. At saka ng y pala, ng y. Oh yeah, that's why. If you spent 100 hours studying, then your grade will be over the roof. Okay? Kaya pag pinanood mo yung tawag dito, yung webinar, naglalagay pa sila ng ng domain tsaka ng range or possible values for x and y. So, yeah, sa pag-interpret mo ng regression model mo, dun mo ilalagay. So, for example, in this case, ito, di ba, yung final exam grade mo, kunyari, just in case lang, meron tayong ceiling at saka meron tayong floor para sa dito. Di ba usually sa math, meron ka pang nakalagay na, for example, yung x mo, x is between, saan yung x? Siguro, gawin natin x is at least 0. X is at least 0. But your y, katulad nga ng sinabi ni Carl, your y is up to 100 lang. So for example, 50. So let's say 50 y 100. Siguro yan. Ito yung gustong itanong ni Carl. Pwede naman, pwede ka mag-restrict. So again, sa research nyo, you have to write this. Okay? Thank you, Carl. Okay. If you spent 100 hours na, kaso lang, 1 to 100 lang yung exam. No? Ano ko? Hindi ka makakataas. Okay. So yeah, I forgot to put that one. Hours studying. Okay. Thank you, Carl. And let's compute now the coefficient of determination. Okay, I found this way of interpreting the coefficient of determination from the OpenStax book. And to compute for the coefficient of determination, you just literally have to compute for r squared. So since our r is 0.9866, what's our r squared? Anong r squared? Doon nag-type si ano pa ito? Si Isaiah. Isaiah, dito ka nag-type. Yan. Okay, who would like to interpret this? So tama, 0.9734. Sige, gawin natin pattern to. So we'll start with approximately. How many percent? Approximately 97.34% of the variation in the final exam grades can be explained by the variation in the grades. Ay, ano pala to? In the number, no? The number of hours spent studying. You can just, or you can also put that using the regression model. On the other hand, since 97% lang, although malaki na to, no? 97% is very large. Meron pa tayong mga roughly 3% na hindi na-explain ng number of hours studying. In real life cases, mababad to, siguro mga nasa 50% or 60%. Dahil na kunyari, grades tong pinag-uusapan natin, no? And there will be other variables na lumalaro dun sa final exam grade natin. So, baka mabawasan pa to. So, 97.34. So, ibig sabihin roughly the rest of the variation, which is roughly, 2.66%, tama ba? 2.6 is very small, of the grades in the final exam grade cannot be explained by the variation of the number of hours spent studying. So that's how we compute for R squared. Do you have any questions? Okay, so before I forgot to mention, dito sa correlation analysis, you can have more than 2 variables to study. Pero yung pagkuha ng correlation coefficient, dalawahan lang. For example, dito, meron tayong 2 variables lang, number of hours spent studying at saka grades in final exam grades. Siguro, for example, we included another variable, say for example, amount of sleep or number of hours spent sleeping. Ano yun, no? Sige, pwede pala. Siguro, for example, number of hours, average amount of time spent sleeping. Pwede mo kuhanin yung correlation and correlation coefficient ng bawat combinations ng mga variables na yon. So basically, we'll get 3 correlation coefficients. Then there's a thing called partial correlation where you can partial out a particular variable. So tatanggalin mo siya from the equation, or you can partial a particular variable, and you can get an estimate of the correlation by partialing out one variable. But yeah, it's beyond the scope of this, but there's a thing called partial correlation. Also, for simple regression analysis, isa lang yung ginamit natin ditong variable, di ba, na pang-predict ng exam scores, which is the number of hours spent studying. There's a thing called multiple regression analysis, by which you can have multiple or you can have more than one independent variable. So in this case, pwede yung, kung meron ka pang number of hours spent sleeping, o kaya your average weekly allowance, you can add that, distance from school, your average grade in a particular subject that you might think can contribute to the final exam grade. Then your model will be longer. Okay, so you'll still have this one, and then you will have x sub 1, x sub 2, x sub 3, up to many x sub independent variables. So, for example, your UPCAT final, your UPG, kapag nag-exam ka, di ba ngayon walang exam? So, paano nila pinapredict yung UPG nyo? So, they actually developing a model that's way complicated than this. This is the simplest model that we can think of. So, yeah. So, madaming variables na nilalagay, tapos i-input nilang lahat yon doon, base dun sa ipapasan yung mga data, and then they can predict your UPG. Okay. Do you have any questions? Questions before we proceed? Multi-dimensions po yung graph. Multi-dimensions yung graph. But I haven't seen one yet. Siyempre, kung madami na yun, naging plain. Yeah. Okay. Kung gusto nyo maging statistician someday, so madami kayong modeling na gagawin. Okay. Yes, tama. You have a general formula for n dimensions. Yes. You will basically add kailangan ng add ng parang slope. And you can actually you can compute for the ay nga pala, I forgot to mention, adequacy lang ng model yung kinumpute for coefficient of determination. You can actually find a p-value that will tell you how significant or how good fitting or how good your model is. Okay? So, gawin natin yan. But before that, let's first determine how we're going to compute those values using calculator since we still have time. So, lagay ko muna yung mga data dito. So the first thing you need to do is to go to mode and then stat. Sanay lang tayo nitong sa 1-var, no? But this time, we'll go to the a plus bx, which is number 2. Kasi tayo? Linear regression. So a plus b, x plus 2. Then you will be asked what are your x's and what are your y's. Just let me type those values. And then for 1. Speaking of multiple regression analysis, you can do that on your research. Final output nyo will be a model. Okay? So, madaming ganon na researches na ang final output nila ay statistical model that will predict something, which will be very, very useful. Kung maganda yung data na pinagkuhanan mo, then you were able to make a model with a very, very good coefficient of adequacy or coefficient of determination. By rule of thumb, dapat mga 70% pataas. Then your model can be used by others. Okay? That will be a very, very good research. Di ba, no? Equation lang yung pinroduce mo. Okay. Actually, ginagamit nila yan sa pag-predict ng COVID cases. That's what they're doing. That's the reason why they can predict at this certain time, at this certain week, if this data will continue, then this is our forecast. Okay, so after filling out the values sa ating table, then press AC to clear the screen. Then usually sa calculator niya yung stat nasa taas ng 1. So just activate that, stat 1. And then look for reg. That means regression. So just press 7. And everything that you need is here. If you want to get the R value, just press 3 equals. 9866. Okay. If you want to get the value of the slope, just select 2. Then press equals. Just 7.7261. Okay. So that's how are you going to use calculator to compute for the regression coefficients and correlation coefficient. How about for GeoGebra? Of course, my favorite GeoGebra. So I have here the data. Ito yung ginawa natin kanina. Sa scatter plot, wala akong nilagay na model, but you can click none, tapos linear. Yan. So lalabas yung line natin, equation ng, yung graph ng line. Ito yung regression equation, yung ginawa natin. Kasi ito yung pwede ka mag-predict. Nag-predict tayo kanina, di ba, kay Bea, kapag daw 7 hours spent studying, then your grade will be 88. Okay, so you can do that here. Also, you can have several values by just clicking the show statistics. You can have the mean, the standard deviation, sample standard deviation, the R. I think this is the population. Kaya medyo adjusted siya. Ito, yung SXXX, S sub YY, tsaka S sub XY. Yung S sub XY, this is called the covariance. Other books will give you this. That's the way they compute for R. It's this value divided by the product of these two. And hopefully that's 0.9 something also. And R squared, obviously, it's the coefficient of determination. Okay, so that's pretty much everything for GeoGebra. You can also do that in Microsoft Excel. Here. After getting the plot, this one. This is the scatter plot, no? You can add chart element. Go to add chart element, and then there's a trend line function here, then linear. I was able to study na ang ginawa niya, puro trend line functions. So, naghanap siya ng pinakamagandang model para i-model yung data na meron siya. So, pwede kang mamili dito. Pwedeng gusto mo linear, exponential, pwede ring polynomial, but in this case, linear lang gamitin natin. And then if you click on this one, double click this, and then this trend line function will open. You can click on this, display the equation, looks familiar, and the R squared value, which is this one. Okay, so yeah, kita mo na kagad dyan yung slope mo tsaka yung y-intercept. Okay, and also you can run correlation analysis here. all you have to do is to go to data. Sorry, binibilisan ko. Just review the recordings later. Kung gusto nyo ulit balikan. Go to data analysis. By the way, if you don't have data analysis, just go to File, Options, Add-ins, then Go. So be sure na naka-check yung mga kailangan mo. So again, data analysis. You can go to correlation. Here's the correlation. So if you click that, all you have to do is to highlight yung gusto mong i-correlate. I was able to highlight also the labels. So click OK. And then this is their correlation coefficient. 0.98657. Kung madami kang variables, para yung multiplication table lalabas. Okay? And also, if you want to work naman on the regression, just go to data, data analysis, and then look for regression. Ito, for regression, tatanungin ka, what is your input for Y? So for Y, ang gusto ko yung final exam grades. For X, I want the number of hours spent studying. Sinama ko yung labels. I also check residuals tsaka residual plots. Residuals, by the way, is the difference between the expected at tsaka predicted, the actual at tsaka the predicted value using the line. You want that to be small, of course. And then just click OK. Here are the values. Your multiple R, that's your correlation R. It's the same thing. Parehas yan dapat. Yan nga lang dito, hindi niya sasabihin kung positive or negative. R square, yung adjusted R square, ina-adjust nila to kasi sabi nila medyo ano daw to, idealistic. So, ina-adjust nila yung R square to fit the, to have a better realistic estimate of the coefficient of determination. You already know standard error. And then this one, ito yung sasabi ko kanina, how good your model is. Then you can check. Pag nag-run ka ng regression analysis, you will have an ANOVA table that will have a p-value at the end. If this is significant, then you can safely say that your model is a good model. Okay? So in this case, this is very small. So therefore, we can say that our model, the regression model, is a good model. Also, if you go down, you can have here the coefficients. Ito yung mga kinompute natin kanina. 7.72, that's your slope. Your intercept is 33.857. That's your y-intercept. And in some cases, they will be asking you to determine the significance of these coefficients. Then all you have to do is to go to the t-statistics here and then check their p-values. If their p-values are less than 0.05, then you can say that those values are significant. In this case, they are very, very small. So therefore, these values are significant. These are the residuals. I think you have a residual plot here. This one. For the residual plot, sabi ni Professor Yambot, kailangan walang pattern na makikita. Okay, that's one of the requirements. Okay. Kung may pattern ka nakikita, like nagpa-funnel or lumalawak, pag may pattern ka nakikita, then you might consider or you may want to consider other regression model or other modeling technique. Okay. That's it for the SEM. Do you have other questions? Do you have any questions? I'll start recording.